I'm Alan Wartes, and this is Think Radio Presents Think Business. Welcome to part 2 of my interview with Karen Hoskin, co-owner of Montanya Distillers.
Imagine if you were a farmer and you had to plant a crop and it had to sit in the field for not 3 months, not 2 months, but a year, 18 months, sometimes 4 years. It had to sit there before you could harvest and sell it to anyone.
Welcome to another great conversation on Think Radio.
Think Business is made possible by funding from the ICE Lab at Western, supporting innovative business in the rural Southwest.
If you like Think Business, then I know you'll enjoy the other shows in the Think Radio Presents family of podcasts. Think People, a celebration of just how amazing people can be. Think Planet, conversations with thought leaders on important environmental issues. Subscribe to Think Radio Presents on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever else you get great content. And don't forget to help us spread the word by liking our social media channels and sharing the content we post. We're grateful to have you in the conversation on Think Radio Presents. We keep hopping back into your story, but you leave the beach in Belize, and you live in Silverton at the time. And
Yes.
For our listeners who don't know what that is, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a more remote, out-of-the-way, difficult place to reach than Silverton, Colorado. I mean, it's plugged way deep in the San Juan Mountains.
Right.
What were you doing there?
Well, in the classic way that my husband and I have, responded to life always, we were living closest to the things we love to do. And so for 10 years, we lived in Flagstaff, Arizona. And back in those days, they'd get 300 inches of snow in the winter at the midway of, the ski area, and you could backcountry ski in the the San Francisco peaks, and we could be in the desert within an hour and a half, and it was just everything we loved. Great mountain biking, and suddenly it was 6 years out of those 10 were a drought, and there wasn't the kind of snow, and everything was getting hotter, and we started leaving our house and driving to the San Juans, which was the closest Colorado mountain range to where we lived. And we just fell head over heels in love with the San Juans. It's the most incredible mountain range. And we backcountry skied, and we hiked, and we biked. Yeah. Durango has amazing biking. And Silverton is just an incredible community. If you can make it there year round, you are some kind of hardcore person. I guess I'm sort of saying that about myself, which I don't necessarily think is true. But we raised our kids there. The school is incredible. It's an expeditionary learning, outward bound school, which is the foundational principles of outward bound brought to education.
Wow. Our
kids were out of the classroom and in the natural world all the time. The teachers were incredible.
Yeah, but Karen, it's 4 hours to the mall.
Thank God. Yes, since I don't go to the mall, I didn't really care.
Yeah, but surely your kids once in a while said, "Hey, can we go to the mall?"
Actually, what they said more often was, "We'd like a few girls around that we haven't known since we were 1."
Okay.
That was their big thing.
That's much more fundamental, much more primal motivation than the mall. I love it. But you looked around and you said, as much as we love this place, this is not where we can make rum. Why?
Well, we did for three and a half years make rum there. It was a many-layered process, but I would say the main reason was because the town government of Silverton had never dealt with anything like us. We had 2 companies at the time, Montanya Distillers and Mountain Boy Sled Works, which was my husband's sled company. I had for quite a long time had Beckoning Design, which was my design firm that I was just slowly phasing out. We were the largest employer in the county other than the government. they just were sort of like, oh, we must need to regulate you in some way. But they didn't really know how, because it was some new industries that they weren't that comfortable regulating. And so we ended up a couple of times in court with the town of Silverton over things that never should have happened, you know.
Karen, you were operating a still.
Right. But we were operating it in a building that had 4-hour firewalls in every direction. It was made of 18-inch thick stone. We were never, ever going to catch anything on fire.
Yeah.
And we had architects and engineers involved to make sure that everything was legit in the code. We were also making these handmade wooden sleds and shipping them all over the world. And, there were 12,000 sleds often shipping out of Silverton, Colorado. So anyway, to make a very long, somewhat sordid tale short, we just got crossways with some of the compliance officials and kept winning in court, or, sort of getting the message like, okay, it's just that we don't know how to deal with you. And at some point we said, we could spend time and money kind of defending ourselves, or we could go somewhere where the business environment is incredibly vibrant. And I knew immediately that Crested Butte was that place, because it had everything we loved about Silverton. More girls for our sons to interact with that they hadn't known since they were 1, and skiing and Nordic and mountain biking and everything we loved, but also this incredibly vibrant business community.
Yeah, and in terms of urbanization, it's maybe one step up from Silverton.
Right.
It's in the wintertime, it's still at the end of a dead-end road.
Exactly.
So you weren't giving up everything. Well, here's an interesting thought then, because at the top of the show in the introduction, I mentioned that you've been steadily disproving the idea that you can't do business in a small community. Mm-hmm. And the message there is for entrepreneurs. Don't think you have to move to a big city in order to make it work. But there's also a message in that for city managers.
Right.
Don't put up roadblocks unnecessarily. It is possible for all kinds of business to exist in small communities.
And that is one of the things we've loved the most in Crested Butte is, first of all, the compliance environment has been so well balanced between we care about aesthetics, we care about safety, we care about following the rules that we've implemented, but also we care about giving you a pathway to a process, helping you along the way in that process. And truthfully, it wasn't really up to them. It was up to us to bring to the town and the county a proper plan, which we did. Yeah. And we knew how to do that. We knew who our partnerships would be. And, we immediately I guess we created relationships quite quickly with the town officials, where they knew that we were going to not try to slip something under the rug, that we were going to be transparent and communicative and caring about the process.
Well, here's another lens on this particular facet of your story, is that what you're describing depends on relationships. It depends on being in a place where you might run into the community development director in the grocery store, or your kids might be playing on the same soccer team. That's a level of responsiveness and relationship that you're not going to get in the city, no matter what, right?
So true.
And so I'm trying to chip away at this idea that if you've got a big idea and for a business and you want to make it work, pack the kids, we've got to go to the city.
Yeah. People were so flabbergasted that we moved from Silverton to Crested Butte.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you go to Denver? Why didn't you go, that they just couldn't believe it. And my feeling was there's daily freight in Crested Butte from a number of different companies. If there's not daily freight with a particular company, it's at least once or twice a week, and we can plan around that. There's, every aspect of high-speed internet that we've ever needed. And most of our, kind of infrastructure is online and on the web, and and Crested Butte has this incredible thing called Riverland, which is a light industrial park that has
a special area set aside just for that.
Just for what we do in large, high-profile bay-style buildings where we can stack rum barrels from floor to ceiling. We can drive a forklift around. We can have a freight truck come and go and load it with, So we have. Most people don't even know that we have this other building, which is out in Riverland, and we're actually in the process of expanding. There's sort of a little quiet back end to what we do. We want really for people to be able to see and interact with us on Elk Avenue, but we can't grow the business on Elk Avenue, which is the downtown core street.
Well, which is something that we should mention, that you're not only in the wholesale distillery business, but you've also got a retail outlet where you sell your products, and that's what you're referring to there on Elk Avenue.
We have a full-scale bar and restaurant that's affiliated, and we distill and ferment in that same building. So people can come in, they can do a tour, taste the rum right off the still, do a tasting of everything that we make. They can have a cocktail, and they can have farm-to-table, chef-driven cuisine at the same time.
Yeah. So super cool. But it would be a mistake to leave it there, because people could look at that and say, wow, that sounds good, but how do I get there? What were the serious obstacles that you faced and had to overcome when you came to Crested Butte and you decided to scale up meaningfully? What was involved in that others can learn from?
Sure. I would say the greatest challenge for us in Crested Butte, but would have happened anywhere and happens to all of our colleagues, is money.
Well.
Because we're in this crazy business that a lot of people don't understand. I can sort of present it as a bit of a metaphor in that, imagine if you were a farmer and you had to plant a crop and it had to sit in the field for not 3 months, not 2 months, but a year, 18 months, sometimes 4 years it had to sit there before you could harvest and sell it to anyone.
Well, orchard owners would understand that very well. But
sure. but
yeah.
Even still, they have something that they can, sell on a very regular basis. And it has so we've been in this position for a long time that if we grow 30 or 40% in a year, not only do we have to make up that 30% that we sold, but we have to plan for another 30% of growth next year. And so it's like not only is the farmer planting a crop, but they're actually buying another field next door to plant a bigger crop because next year they're going to have a lot more demand. It's an economy that most people don't totally understand.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten all this new business in the last 6 months from Europe. These are contracts that are mutually kind of performance bonded. We have to have enough rum to sell them, to sign on the dotted line. And they want every drop of rum that we have aging and every drop we can make, which doesn't leave much room for the United States or Colorado or our own tasting room.
Right.
So we have to grow, but in order to grow, we have to make it now, and we can sell it to them really no sooner than a year or 18 months down the road. So there's an upfront investment. It takes every dollar put back into the company to keep growing. And the beauty is in this business, eventually someone comes along and says, hey, good job. We want to buy you and make all of your production efficiencies better, and it will cost less, and we'll be able to have, more margin on what you're making. And that's what's happening is this acquisition and consolidation situation.
Yeah, but in the
spirits.
meantime, you've got to do what you just said, and that is plow every dollar back.
Exactly.
Keep the wheels turning.
And raising equity. We've done 3 rounds of raising equity in 10 years, and we will have a 4th in early 2019. And we've actually really shifted how we do that, which we can talk about if you want to.
I would love to.
Yeah, so historically, you go out looking for venture capital or angel investment or, just money from people who have money, and it's a bit of a self-reinforcing system. So the people who have money are investing and they're making money, and the rest of the world is sort of opportunityless. And so in 2016, May of 2016, the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives added a code to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and created a way for companies like ours to raise equity among people who aren't pre-qualified investors or aren't. So it's a whole new code of the SEC code.
Really?
And it allows us to go out to our employees, to their families, to people who love our brand and our product, to people who are pundits in the rum world, just generally people who love what we're doing, and raise money from them. And it could be $1,000. It doesn't have to be. So up until January of 2019, we've only brought in people who could buy a share or higher, and our shares have been $28,000, $29,000. That's a high threshold.
That's prohibitive, yep.
And so we've really, over the course of rethinking our strategy to become more of the B Corp that we are, which is where we're sort of community-driven and community-owned, we're using this new code of the SEC to raise money among people who aren't the moneyed set. They aren't necessarily the sort of non-diverse age, race, opportunity set that has historically been able to invest in all kinds of things. We're going to take it much more broad-based and sell a portion of our company. It's sort of, I call it like going quasi-public. We're not going to be publicly traded, but we're going to give opportunities to the public to buy in a way that they haven't ever been able to.
One of the things that the traditional investor set tends to bring to the table is a set of assumptions about how things have to work.
Exactly.
Assumptions about what's worth doing and what's not worth doing that are just sort of built in. It's ossified in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that if you're reaching out to people who are investing $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, those are relationships that may allow you to do more innovative and interesting things. Do you find that to be true, or is that part of your plan?
It's definitely part of the plan. I think the reason people historically shied away from it was because you often give your investors a certain set of privileges, a certain type of voting right structure, so they can weigh in on your budget, they can weigh in on whether you sell the company, when you borrow money, et cetera. We have always had that very traditional structure. But what I wanted was an opportunity, say, for a teacher who's been socking away money to be able to invest and have some of those returns that don't happen often for a teacher. They happen for a tech person who lives in Silicon Valley or something like that. So, and also I'm a huge advocate of diversity, gender diversity and ethnic diversity in everything that I do. And I would love for my investor core to represent that as well. And it doesn't. It really doesn't.
And there's no way to force it to unless you go out and sort of self-select these kind of investors.
Historically, there just weren't those kind of investors around. So my last round was in 2016, which was before this new SEC opportunity even emerged. So I've always been a little bit stuck in who I can go to. They have to have the money. They have to be pre-approved as qualified investors. All of a sudden, it's just the world is open. And I don't mean to say at all that it's not a risky investment. Trump could change one policy on international trade, and my European business could go away tomorrow. It almost did in January because of the the tariff war that was happening with Europe, and our EU partners were like, yeah, our numbers don't pencil out if this tariff thing happens. Luckily, Trump, got a lot of negative feedback about it, and he rolled it back, and our business is back in place. But there's so much risk out there, and it's not like buying a transportation bond or something from a government.
Yeah.
But there's also lots of upside, hopefully.
Well, if nothing else, there's buy-in among that community of people. They get to feel a share of ownership in something that's really cool. I love that about it.
And become brand ambassadors. If there are 100 more people walking around saying, I own part of this company, I love that. I want that. I think some of my colleagues don't want that. They want to be able to say, I'm the owner, this is mine.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I would love it if all of my employees could, buy in, or I could buy them shares and they could walk around saying, I own part of this company.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, in addition to this trend that we're hoping for, that people are more environmentally conscious, more socially conscious, maybe this is a trend that will begin to catch on, where investment can be more grassroots. I love that idea. We have to talk about the B Corp. We've thrown that phrase around several times. I really want to hear from you, your perspective of what that is to begin with, but then why it was so important for you to go through what is actually a pretty arduous selection process.
It is, yes.
Why did you make that decision?
So I would say it first came onto my radar maybe 5 years ago. And one of the things that I struggle with as a consumer is what I would describe as sort of greenwashing. So anytime that someone tells me that they are an environmentally responsible company, I don't want to necessarily take their word for it. I want to know what that means to them. I want to know how they practice it and activate it every day inside the business. Because I've seen a lot of disconnects, like, oh, we are, we're this, really environmentally responsible company, but you can't find evidence of it.
And it has the effect of eroding public confidence.
So many people will say whatever, that, they're environmentally responsible. So that was the first thing, was that as a consumer, I wanted ways to evaluate companies I support. The B Corp was becoming that, much like LEED certification for a building or fair trade certification for my coffee. There's no fair trade certification in the U.S. I've always thought that was crazy. We drench crops with, glyphosate and Roundup, et cetera, but you don't have a fair trade kind of qualification for anything grown in the United States.
Right, which would certify that no labor was exploited and all of that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So
we don't want to see that.
I felt strongly that I wanted to make those practices present in my company, and it didn't all happen at once. It's been sort of a many-step process. Sometimes I'm vexed by what is available. So up until a year ago, we didn't have commercial composting in Crested Butte. And I couldn't take on also becoming a composter in addition to everything else that we do. So, but finally a year ago, now we have commercial compost. So it was really this process of implementing things. But then I wanted to take it to the next level, which was to have a third party say, yes, you do this. And yes, we've audited your paper trail and you can't fake us out. And if you do, you're fraudulent. And, just all this, all of what the B Corp does.
Yeah. And so what sort of things do they
there's a very long process in which you catalog for them what your practices are. So there's a questionnaire, and it puts you into different, kind of categories. So like, as we're a manufacturer, that meant that we had a little more to do. It's much easier if you're a lawyer's office or a consultant. And also, once you're within the B Corp, there's a range of scores. So you have to get an 80 in order to become a B Corp, but the scores go up to 140, I think. And so I didn't want to be at 80, of course, because I'm just like that.
That's
I guess
just not who Karen is. Nope.
Yeah, and so essentially, B Corp is evaluating companies on 4 different aspects. And not every company within the B Corp is doing well in all 4 aspects. Some are doing extremely well in 3 and not so well in 1. Or so there's a lot of variety. But the 4 aspects are environment, social practice, which is basically how you take care of your employees, how you, are you employing a diverse population of people? Are you taking a look at what benefits you provide, how you bank, all kinds of things. And then there is governance, which is, are we a transparent organization? Are we telling our employees kind of more about who we are and what we do? Do we have a whistleblower policy? Those types of things. And then there's a community element, which is how philanthropic are you in your community? What are you doing to support nonprofit organizations and use your business as a force for good in the community? Those are the 4 categories. So we scored 120, which is something.
So there went the curve, is basically what I'm saying.
And so there are 3 distilleries that are now certified in the world. But our score is 32% higher than theirs. So not only are we a B Corp and certified, but in the B Corp, we have a high level of certification. So now we're eligible for this certification, which is called Best for the World, which is where we can be honored with another level based on how high we scored and how much we do. Well,
congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's been so exciting. And the reason I wanted to do it also was because it brings the philosophy into the DNA of the company. So as I go out, say, and bring on more investment, or as I hire a CEO, or anything I do in the future, hire a new distiller, hire a new general manager, it's just part of the DNA of the company. It's what we have, a triple bottom line. We're evaluating not just how much money we make, but if we're taking care of our employees, and if we're taking care of the environment, and if we're contributing to our community, and if we're governing from a good perspective.
And prospective partners and employees know that from the get-go.
Exactly.
Because there it is. I'd like to point out, though, that it's not like you said, hey, this B Corp thing sounds pretty cool. Let's see what we have to do to get that. This stuff was built into your company from day one.
Right. So they then just evaluated things we were already doing. But for example, I didn't know. Like, I knew we were composting, but I didn't know how many pounds a week we were composting. I'd never done a spreadsheet of, how much of our waste goes into the recycling business. Is it actually getting recycled when it leaves our facility? I didn't know, if a calculation of how much solid waste we send to the landfill. There was so much that I knew that we were doing it, but we had to measure it, and then the measurements have to be not just from me making a note, like, here we go. It's like they want to see that how we bought our wind power, and how we what if we say that we are carbon offset. They want to see the certificate that is approved by the EPA about how we did our calculations and all that stuff. So it's someone, a troll on our Facebook page said something this week like, the B Corp, it's just a bunch of crap. I worked for a company and they weren't very nice to me, and it's a bunch of crap. And I was like, oh my gosh, how easy would it be for a consumer or even an employee to not see all of what goes into it?
Yeah, well, they don't. But that's why we're talking about it now. so that at
Yes.
least the people who are listening to us will say,
But we didn't have to change any practices to become B Corp certified.
yeah.
We just had to document some practices, and we didn't have a whistleblower policy, so we created one.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that we really created. But now that we're in this network of other businesses that think a lot like we do, they have annual conferences, they have webinars online. They're networking like suppliers, so label suppliers who are B Corp certified with label buyers and cork buyers and
Yeah.
bottle buyers, and
Makes it easier to do what you do.
exactly.
Well, we are out of time, I'm sorry to say, but I want to ask one last question, and I'm going to force you to answer it in like 2 sentences.
That's hard for me.
Yeah, well, it's not an easy question either. So I'm always aware on Think Business that our audience contains people who are in that terrifying moment where they're sitting at the kitchen table trying to decide, do I move forward? And so I like to give you an opportunity, give my guests an opportunity to say to them a simple couple of points of advice.
This just came up yesterday. Accept a high level of fear. I don't mean to say be fearful, but it's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to be somewhat fearful. If that makes you want to walk away from the first minute, it's toast.
Do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's good advice, because a lot of people interpret their fear as a failing,
Right.
or that they shouldn't do it at all. No. Mm-mm.
If I'm terrified, that probably means that I'm pushing something forward in a positive way.
Oh, I love it. Karen, thanks for coming in. I've enjoyed this conversation very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Join us next week for another great conversation on Think Radio Presents Think People.